the greatest moment in my life.
Hey, yo. How are we doing this WrestleMania Monday, I guess? The day after the weekend before, Maxie. How are you feeling?
I am feeling delicate, as I was just saying to you in the pre-record. I have this epiphany flowing over me today that I am too old to do this shit. I am too long in the tooth. And that's not the recording, that's not the podcasting. This is amazing. I absolutely love doing this. It's the multi-day, long-time streams and then having no sleep the next day to do it all again. There was a time when it didn't bother me. Now I feel like death warmed up.
Amazing. I feel quite good, to be honest. Bit tired, mate. Bit tired, but...
Well, you would do. Do you know what? Actually, you had an alcohol-induced sleep, didn't you? Because you are one of two recipients today of this.
Pimple Dip alert!
Oh, a teeny weeny.
So,
and what is that?
Getting straight into the first Pimple Dip. So you joined us for the second night's live. Well, you joined us.
There was no plan to do it.
No, which actually made the streams so much more fun because people were jumping in and out, and it was very kind of fluid with the members. But you joined us, and it was brilliant that you joined us. But for the first half an hour or so, you really kind of disrupted the flow of the show. And there's a massive reason for that. It's because you're a fucking idiot.
I was drunk. I was a drunk idiot.
A, you were pissed. B, you kept saying, "Can everybody hear me?" And you kept replying as if you were playing the game where you have to answer the last question that you were asked.
Yeah.
And what was the reason why that was happening, sir? There was a very particular reason why that was happening.
Because I was watching the stream before I joined it, and I forgot to turn YouTube off.
So you were reacting to the lag in the stream.
I was watching... I was effectively listening to us via YouTube whilst we were in the studio, like the StreamYard studio bit that we are here now. Yeah, you can't do the whole Pimple Dip thing for that anyway, mate. You know that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
I can, and I did.
I invented Pimple Dip. You can't be doing this shit.
you reap what you sow, and I said there's not only one Pimple Dip, so we're gonna do it another time.
Pimple Dip alert!
Oh, a teeny weeny.
So, this week's second Pimple Dip.
Now,
the person who organised all this WrestleMania festivities, massive props to him, Matt Willis, an absolute superstar, really kind of controlled the whole weekend, did a great job, but he's gone and got the Rona. Today he's tested positive for the Rona, so he is the second Pimple Dip of the day. So unfortunately there'll be no volley because one, I'm feeling a little bit delicate and he is feeling incredibly delicate with the Rona. So yeah, the two Pimple Dips today are my Radio Techers brothers.
Well, okay. Fair enough, mate. I'll take that. That was really silly of me. I'm not gonna lie, it was really daft. But
it made it for a great show though.
In my defence, I was incredibly intoxicated. So,
I mean, you weren't the only person over that weekend. Tanner got absolutely shit-faced the first night. Dan got so drunk that he ended the night in the post-record, and I wish we'd have recorded it, just necking rum, butterscotch rum from a skull bottle. Yeah, so...
From a school bottle?
A skull-shaped bottle.
Oh. I thought you said from a school bottle. I was like...
I mean, that'd be weird in itself.
Yeah, what do they do in York? Like, do they take rum to school? Do they? Perhaps that should have been where I went.
To be fair, living in York, I'd take rum to school.
Yeah, fair point, mate, fair point. Anyway, Maxie, 5 minutes into the show, shall we start off how we normally do, all ready for the audio version later in the week?
Let's do it.
Okay then. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever and whenever you may be listening or watching from. Yes, Steve-O, I heard the shout out on your show. And yes, don't worry, there is no copyright coming, mate. I ain't got that kind of power or authority, so, whatever. At least you gave me a shout out, Ori. Yeah, I heard you on a change in attitude. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Cy. I am Cy, and with me, as always, is the man of the hour. To my Diesel power,
Big
the
Daddy
Survivor
Cool.
Series. The Survivor Series. To my severe case of the wearies, because WrestleMania is catching up with me. I'm tired. I'm looking forward to bed tonight. I know I'm going to sleep well. A podcaster who insists, funnily enough, after you just did that, Max, a podcaster who insists on random people calling him Big Daddy Cool, despite the police telling him several times to stop it. The Podfather himself.
Around naming strangers cocks.
The Podfather himself, Lord Mags. We've already covered how you are doing, sir, so I'm not even going to ask.
Well, that's really good of you. I do want to add to it. This weekend has actually been amazing. For the build of WrestleMania, can't say I was overly enthused in it. I felt that maybe this was the first WrestleMania where I wasn't excited. But it over-delivered in every aspect for me. There was not a part of the show. I think SARS froze there, so that's fun.
Am I back?
You're back. But yeah, there was not a part of that WrestleMania that I didn't enjoy. Even the wacky stuff. I thought it was they absolutely nailed it for WrestleMania this year. Props to WWE for that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't watch WWE television. It's not for me. You know, there's some brilliant moments on it. You know, there's some entertaining moments on it. But I mean, 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, and all this. It's a lot of stuff to get through, and it's not my cup of tea anymore. I enjoy AEW, even though I'm not really up to date with that either. But WrestleMania, I wanted to watch, and I went in not expecting a great deal, but I had a bloody great time, both nights, and then watching it with my daughter in the day as well. So rewatching it, I guess. And each time I watched it, I enjoyed everything I saw. You know, the matches went from being okay, average, decent enough, I guess, non-offensive, to being bloody brilliant. There were some great comedy moments as well. Just you know, Austin coming back, everything about it. I had a great weekend. So yeah, well done WWE. Credit where it is due.
Absolutely. It was a banging time, and it was great to share it as well with not only the Radio Tickers team, but everybody who got involved. Guys like Marker, Dan was superb. Ora was an absolute gem. You also showed up.
I did.
But yeah, just everyone who tuned in and got involved in the chat just made it a really fun experience. Kind of elevated it for me. So yeah, props to everyone who got involved.
Yeah, it was good. I had a great time doing the whole live streaming stuff with you lot as well. Some people that, you know, I've known of or spoken to on Twitter or whatever for a long time, but never actually spoken to properly. The likes of Ori and Ray and so on. So that was fantastic as well. Yeah, that was really good. So yeah, I just had a bloody great weekend, mate, and I'm very, very glad I booked this morning off work. I'll tell you that.
And here he is, the infected one himself in the chat. It was one hell of a weekend. Matt, absolutely props to you for steering this ship. But you earned a Pimple Dip for being infected with the Rona, so swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, there we go. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, a pandemic. Everyone's catching this at one point or another, but apparently Magsy feels the need to insult you over it, Matt. So
he actually asked me. He actually asked me in the DM. Said, "I expect you to insult me over it." So, what's more insult than being called a Pimple Dip?
Very true. Dan Griffin there in the chat saying that Sami Zayn Johnny Knoxville was the greatest WrestleMania match of all time.
How amazing was it though? I mean, I know we're going to go off on some WrestleMania tangents, but that match was amazing. The Austin and KO match was better than it ever had any right to be. Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory was so much fun. The stunner that Vince took was great in the very worst way possible. Yeah, it was just a really good weekend. I enjoyed everything about it.
Yes, it was. It's just great. It was great. And it's funny as well watching with Charlie, because she doesn't know who Johnny Knoxville is. You know, she's only 12, so she didn't watch Jackass when it was on telly. I don't even think she was born when it started, to be fair. And when was that? Late 90s it was?
I think early 2000s, I think.
Yeah, so she was asking about what does he do, and I'm thinking, I turned around to Sharon and I said, she's old enough to watch Jackass, isn't she? Apparently she is not. No?
She's definitely not old enough to watch Jackass, Jesus Christ.
Okay. Are you in the chat there, Charlie? Magsy says no. All right.
I mean, she started in the chat. We may have forced her out, but I'm glad she enjoyed it, and that's the whole point of WrestleMania for me. It brings families together. Like you said, WWE is not really for us anymore. You don't watch it. I don't particularly watch it. I'll watch the main pay-per-views, and it did everything it needed to do. It was a massive, massive success.
Was that Charlie then saying it's Monday night? Do you know what that means?
It is.
Oh, look at that. Stepping in for her mum.
Stealing the mum's gimmick.
Well, Sharon's gone to the cinema tonight, mate.
Oh.
Now, the film starts at 7, so she should be back. I mean, the dog just barked, so I'm assuming she's back now, I think. Otherwise,
what film has she gone to see?
Morbius.
Oh, what a letdown.
Well, it's the second time she's gone. She went on the weekend as well. Because it's
To
Jared
see the
Leto,
same
isn't
film?
it? Yeah, it's Jared Leto, isn't it? She just loves Jared Leto. So.
Yes, she is mentally ill.
So she'll probably be in the chat shortly. But yeah, that was quite cool. I like that, Charlie, stepping in and giving forth your mum's line there at the start of the show. That was excellent. Dan Griffin there. I watched Jackass and at 12 and I turned out, oh wait, no, Mags is right. Yeah, fair point.
Down now.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna have to dig some out and watch some. Maybe I'll let Charlie watch it when the mum's not around. We'll see. Magsy, shall we chuck some embarrassing, awful garbage into the Hall of Lame?
I should have got the video ready, but we can do.
Quick, Phil time. What you got for us this week then, Mags?
Okay, so I want to go to 2004, a specific episode of SmackDown, which aired on the 16th of October. Now, not a date that stands out in your mind, but there was an incident on this episode of SmackDown that has lived on in absolute infamy. So this was the episode where Michael Cole was locked in a bathroom with a big, muscular, blonde-haired Hardenrack. So my entrant this week is Michael Cole being Harden raped in the bathroom. This is. Hardenrack is a character that is essentially a stain on the underpants of wrestling. He technically ruined people's memories of Legion of Doom. They tried their best to make him a big monster heel, but with that lisp, it just wouldn't pass over. But this angle was absolutely ridiculous. So we essentially cut to Michael Cole being pinned up against a cubicle wall, and the video starts with him looking like he's being thrusted. Yeah. So, and then Hardenrack starts whispering
sweet nothings
in his ear. He says to Michael, I bet you're wondering why I've got you back here. And it's essentially to read him a poem, because that was the gimmick of Hardenrack. He dealt with his anger issues through the means of poetry. But you can never get over the fact it very much looked like Michael Cole was getting it dry from a big muscular Hardenrack. So for my pick, it's got to be the Harden rape.
I can't put that on Twitter, can I? I can't put this week's Hall of Lame the hide. I can't do that.
Well, good luck finding a way around it. It's Hardenrack potentially sexually assaulting Michael Cole in a bathroom.
Potentially sexually. Brilliant. Oh dear. Yeah, it's not a good look, is it? It's not a good look. Very, very ropey moment in WWE
It's
history.
Incredibly
Very
so
ropey.
I actually read a little bit of an interview. Well, it was a transcribe from a podcast that Hadarat went on maybe about a couple of years after he'd been released, and it was one of those kind of like shoot style podcasts. And he actually talked about this incident, and he said it was actually Vince McMahon's idea. Shock. I mean, I don't believe him for a minute because that's not the Vince I know. But Vince didn't actually come up to Hadarat with the idea. It was Steph that kind of relayed the information, and he only found out it was happening on the day of the tapings as well. So we talk about WWE kind of booking on the fly now. Even back in 2004, they were doing exactly the same thing. But Steph said that Vince had come up with this angle whilst having a nap, whilst having essentially a daydream.
He dreams about this kind of thing.
I mean, this is a guy who wanted an incest storyline between his son and daughter. So, yeah, he absolutely dreams about this thing. He wakes up solid dreaming about this kind of thing.
The whole thing between Steph and Shane, that was like plan B, wasn't it? Because initially he wanted it to be himself and Steph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is... Oh, my word.
He lives in a very, very weird, secluded bubble.
Yeah.
So, anyway, back to this shoot interview. Stephanie was the one who told Hadarat about it. And the reason why Hadarat said he agreed was because he just wanted to be on TV. He wanted the TV time to kind of flesh out his character. And he ended this kind of segment about it saying he was just happy that he was the one doing the raping and not the one getting the rape.
I suppose, every cloud, I suppose. I don't know. Let's move on before I say something that's going to get me in lots of trouble.
Can you top the Harden rape?
I can't. I don't think I can. I don't think... Well, I don't know, actually. I suppose there is a kind of Vince McMahon sexual assault link to this, in a way.
Oof.
Randomly.
Weirdly coincidence.
It is. Basically, in 1992, we had a character... Well, vignettes for a character starting to appear on WWF television. And eventually it led to the debut of who I am throwing in to the Hall of Fame this week. The awful orange jumpsuited gimmick that was Nails. Now, this was shockingly bad. Mm-hmm. Nails was apparently a prisoner that was... literally, he was brought in just for a feud with the Big Boss Man, who was a former prison guard. And apparently Nails was guarded by the Big Boss Man, and he was abused by the Big Boss Man, and he was adamant he was innocent of his crimes in the first place. And he was coming to the WWF to get his own back on the Big Boss Man for what happened. Now, if that's not nonsensical enough, if that's not daft enough, he spent his whole time in the company still wearing his prison overalls, which, of course, makes perfect sense, doesn't it? You've been banged up inside for a while. Why wouldn't you want to keep your clothes?
Yeah, exactly. You certainly wouldn't want to ingratiate yourself back into society like a normal human being.
No. And my lasting memory of how awful this thing was, well, first of all, whenever he cut a promo or he'd be looking at the camera, shouting stuff in the ring or whatever, is how sweaty and how much he spat when he was talking. He was just literally, his from his shoulders up, from his neck up, he was just liquid. It was horrific. And then the second part is when he used to stand there with his nightstick, just bumping it into his own hand, to the point where he must have broken a bone at some stage, because he was literally levering himself with this nightstick over and over and over again. Eventually, it led to the nightstick on a pole match, which is as bad as it sounds. Yeah, it was. But eventually, Nails got, let go. He was asking for more money, or there was a dispute over some kind of money, which led to Nails effectively assaulting Vince McMahon in his office. Whilst the Berserker
but not sexually assaulting.
This is the thing. Nails says that Kevin, whatever his name was, Kevin Wallach or something, wasn't it his name? He says that Vince McMahon made a pass at him, and that's why he was trying to beat up Vince McMahon. Mm-hmm. He said Vince McMahon sexually assaulted him, and that's why he was choking Vince on the floor.
I mean, that does sound more believable.
With the Berserker guarding the door, apparently. Nails brought the Berserker along to guard the door. Yeah. And that eventually led to Nails leaving the WWF, surprisingly enough. Nails also appeared in the court case for the steroid scandal against the WWF and Vince McMahon, and said all he could about Vince giving him steroids all the time to try and get Vince into more and more trouble, but eventually got laughed out of court because what he said contradicted various things. At times he said that he was offered steroids by Vince. Vince wasn't even in that state at the time, and so he completely just destroyed his argument. He then ended up, as if it wasn't bad enough having this awful gimmick, he then ended up in WCW in exactly the same gimmick, but being called The Prisoner. And it is just terrible. It's one of those things. In 1992, I was 11. I was watching professional wrestling tapes, and that would be when somebody who would mock me about wrestling would come in the room, or that would be one of the characters that people will go, "Are you sure, mate, about this?" and laugh about this thing I loved. So for being ridiculous, for being a liar, and for contributing to me getting laughed at for being a wrestling fan when I was a kid, Nails is in at the Hall of Lame this week.
I mean, another character who should have been in there way before now, because you're absolutely right. And if he didn't have this kind of such a evil personal vendetta against Vince McMahon, the court case could have changed wrestling history. Vince could have gone to jail. The WWF could have essentially closed down. But he said in the court case that he hated Vince with all his heart, and that's one of the things that really swayed the jury. That his testimony obviously was full of contradictions, but was also massively biased. So he in effect saved the WWF, which is I bet that
weird.
I bet that ate him alive.
Yeah, totally. Two very worthy entrants, I believe. The whole Heidenreich, Michael Cole, shall we just say, incident for now?
Hard and rip. I'm good with hard and rip.
And the whole Nails Prisoner situation.
McMahon rape.
Okay, right. You don't make this any easier, do you? Let's be fair. Magsy, do you want to have a quick check on what's going on in the chat, and then we will jump across to our non-wrestling topic this week?
Yes, sir. So we have got the usual suspects. Dan Griffin, hello, sir. I wonder if you're feeling delicate because you had a very interesting weekend. Matt Willis is in the chat as well, and they're doing exactly the same thing. Apparently, Dave Meltzer was offended by the Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville match.
Well, Dave Meltzer's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous. If
you
you can't laugh at that match, there is something wrong. And we had and someone else in the chat, Marker, who finally has followed me after about 2 years of not following and doing multiple content with each other. He was on for the second day. We had a blast watching that Johnny Knoxville match. It was so much fun. All the callbacks to the Jackass show, the giant hand, the massive mousetrap, the ball kicker, the taser. Yeah, it was brilliant. Dave Meltzer needs to get out of his own arse. But yeah, we've got Dan, Matt, Marker all having amazing Chihuahuas. And this is a good point that Dan makes, and I think it covers a lot of that kind of mid-90s WWF characters. Says as well as Nails wearing the jumpsuit, Bossman was also wearing his uniform, but then so did the Mountie, so did T.L. Hopper, who was meant to be a plumber, so did the Goon. That kind of like career gimmick bullshit. It was a dark time for wrestling.
Not a good look, mate. Not a good look. So then, our non-wrestling topic this week was based upon, I suppose, the old fantasy dinner guests conversation.
And this got tasty.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. We asked if you could invite any 3 people to have dinner with yourself, so making up a 4, alive, dead, whatever, any celebrities, etc. Who would you choose, and if possible, tell us why. And we had quite a few interesting responses, Magsy, didn't we?
Mm-hmm. We did, and we always thank the CWF for getting involved. One particular member, a very valued member of the CWF, kind of crossed the line a little bit, but I'm sure we'll get there.
There was an image that we will not be showing on the show. My
Definitely-
daughter watches
definitely
this. I'll tell you what I'll do, Magsy, actually, because Charlie is in the chat and she's little and it's a school night, Charlie. I will start on the couple that we've had in from WhatsApp this week first, okay? Sharon is back from the cinema. She's popping up in the chat there.
Look at her stealing Charlie's gimmick.
Yeah.
How dare she?
Charlie was there saying it's Monday night. You know what that means? She was there straight away, filling in for you.
Oh, that's awesome. And I hope you enjoyed the film, Sharon.
Yes, and me. We will start with Mr. Matt Willis, who sent a message in to us via WhatsApp here. He says, traditionally, it would be 4 guests. Well, that's not what we asked, is it? I don't care about tradition.
Yeah, so
I
fuck
said
you.
3.
Fuck you, man.
Anyway, traditionally, it would be 4 guests. So my 4 are as follows. Most of them are for the reason that they'd have amazing stories or jokes to tell. First off, William Regal, the stories that man could tell. That's a great shape, Magsy, actually, isn't it? To be fair, I didn't even enter my mind. That's a great shape. I've had the utmost respect for this man for 25 years. Would love the chance to chat over a glass of wine and a 5-course meal. Second choice, Dame Judi Dench, a phenomenal actress, a phenomenal human being, and she's got a filthy mind. She was snuck in the back door of heaven, the gay nightclub in London. Yes, that joke is obvious. Third choice, he says his nan. He would love to have one last meal with her to tell her how much he loves her and he misses her and introduce her to Chris. And his final pick, because of the love I have for this man and the jokes he can tell and the support he's given me, especially this past weekend and tonight due to my positive COVID test, is Lord Darren Kirkby.
After I've just given the Pimple Dick Award as well. I'm
you
not
just
taking it back.
slaughtered me.
I'll come to that dinner party with your Pimple Dick Award, sir. But 2 of those guests break the rules anyway because they are not famous. So essentially, you'd have 2 people there. And then some hanger honors.
Yeah, so even though we said 3, Matt chose 4, he still only ends up with 2.
I still got it wrong. Brilliant.
Charlie, if you're still in the chat, sweetheart, I'll read yours out now. She messaged me on WhatsApp here purely because I needed her to do this rather than just tell me, because I would forget and I need it in front of me written down. Otherwise I'm just completely lost. Charlie says here she would like Tommy Innit, Wilbur Soot, and John Moxley. Now the first 2, I'm informed by my youngest, are YouTubers who make music and do gaming videos and so on, and Charlie watches all of their YouTube content there, and she would very much enjoy having dinner with John Moxley because Charlie is a massive John Moxley fan.
Good picks. Great picks.
Yeah, great show, Charlie, great show. Okay, so we'll jump onto Twitter now, shall we? And we'll start off on Twitter with at Milwaukee1 on Twitter. And this came in like within seconds of us putting the tweet out. So he must have been desperate to discuss this topic and just waiting for an occasion to bring this up. The 3 people Chris would invite to his fantasy dinner party are Rod, Jane, and Freddie from Rainbow. Because he wants to know if Bungle really was a pervert.
Yep. And apparently he followed it up with some extra information saying that Jane had married both Rod and Freddie at separate times. Yeah, I never knew. Yeah, well, I mean, you never know. But
I think they'd know.
I mean, they would know, but so that would be actually an interesting meal, because you would see if there's any kind of tension between the 3, whether they were happy sharing, who knows. And you'd also find out whether Jeffrey was the nonce that he looked like.
Who was Jeffrey? Oh, the actual human person rather than the puppet person.
Yeah, that guy.
He worked in Sainsbury's, didn't he? After Rainbow, he was a taxi driver and he worked part-time in Sainsbury's at one stage. Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
You imagine that, just going up and saying, excuse me, mate, can you tell me where the baked beans are? It's all right. It's Jeffrey. That'd be amazing.
You can't really kind of imagine kids TV presenters of that era making a lot of money, though, can you? Really?
No.
So you can understand it. So yeah, what a shame.
Yeah,
I mean, Sainsbury's of all places.
You say what a shame. You might have loved it. You might have enjoyed taxi driving and working at Sainsbury's more than dealing with a fucking pink hippo. You know?
How dare you besmirch George when Zippy is the real issue in that group?
Zippy was an absolute bellend, wasn't he?
He
If you had to share a
was
house
a
with him,
menace. He was a fucking menace, weren't he?
I'd have to slap him, mate. I couldn't handle being around that idiot all day.
I mean, you could just zip his mouth up. I never got why he just didn't unzip his own mouth. Because he did have hands.
Yeah, that's true. But he had like massive, weird, like when like Vader used to do the Vader sign, the Vader V. That's what Zippy's hands looked like, wasn't it? So is that difficult to
Like
grab?
claws.
Like the penguin, you know? Zippy had hands like penguin, so maybe he'd have struggled to get the zip open again.
Could have done.
Yeah, maybe.
Do you want to give us a rendition of the Rainbow theme tune?
I do not.
Okay. Swiftly moving on.
William Kitchen at the Appliance 180 says here, Bungle definitely slung one up George after a night on the Tia Maria. I love the way that he he specifies what drink they would be having as well. Yeah, he's put a lot of thought into this scenario.
And he definitely has, because he's also the guy that posted the spurious image, which I will do my very best to avoid showing on this show.
We don't. If we're going to get cancelled for anything, first of all, it's amazing it's not happened already. Okay, but secondly, if we're going to get cancelled for anything, we want to get cancelled for our screw up, not somebody else's picture of Bungle doing something.
Oh, William, sir, William, have you no depths that you will sink to?
Oh, it did make me chuckle, to be fair. Morty JR at Morty JR on 5 on Twitter.
That's going to be further down, so I'm going to have to remove this a minute.
Scroll down, yeah. This is just the order they've come into us, Magsy, that I've got it in. So he says, and this is a great shot.
There we go.
Excellent stuff.
Don't go back up. You're not allowed
up. Don't scroll. Don't scroll up. Children watch this show. I mean, they shouldn't, to be fair, but we've got the little E next to us, so it's all right. We're covered. Morty says, Rick Mail. That's a great shake, that is.
Yeah.
William Regal again, which is surprising because I said it didn't enter my mind before when Matt said it, but it must have entered my mind because I'd have read this when it came in. So.
Yeah, but things enter your mind and quickly leave.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And Ricky Grover. I don't know who that is.
So Ricky Grover's like a comedy actor. Not massively famous, but you will have seen him in some stuff. That's your homework for the day, to look up who Ricky Grover is. He plays kind of like the usually the bully boy Cockney character with a beard. So
okay.
He's quite a funny guy.
Okay. Morty says, yeah, those are the first names that came into his head. But come on, you want to go to that party, don't you? I was like, yeah, you do. Imagine a few drinks with Rick Mail. Yeah.
Rick Mail is a shout.
That's a great shot, yeah. That's a great shot. Dan Griffin at Dan Griffin 21 on Twitter. He has a couple of options here for us.
I have to be very, very careful now.
Oh God, I'm nervous, Mags. Don't show that picture.
So that's the last picture beforehand. Let's just remove that. Back up. I would be grateful if you could cover Dan, then Steve-O, and Scottish Juggler, Scottish Danny, if you can, because they're all around this area.
Okay, I'll see what I can do.
William Kitchen, what have you done to this show?
It's brilliant. Magsy's struggling to. For people on listening on the audio version later in the week, we've got the on our YouTube show that we're doing now live. We've got the Twitter feed up on the screen so people can see the tweets that are coming to us and so on. We had a sort of quite dodgy image sent in during part of a conversation, which
quite dodgy image.
So we're desperately trying
an image
to
that is illegal
it.
in every country in the world.
We're desperately trying to avoid showing that image on our live stream because ultimately we don't want to get cancelled. So Magsy's having to jump back and forth on this. It's quite funny. Dan Griffin says, if we're talking wrestlers, Roddy Piper, Owen Hart, and Mick Foley. Imagine the stories and the laughs you'd have. That is a great Roddy Piper. That is a great shape because he could party as well, couldn't he? Let's be honest.
If I were picking specifically wrestlers, they would be the three wrestlers that I think I'd pick. All of them would have absolutely amazing stories. That would be a dinner party where you wouldn't even eat food. You would just listen to those guys.
Yeah.
Just shoot the shit and just reminisce. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, definitely. From other sports, Dan says, Ricky Hatton, who's his favourite boxer ever. Freddie Flintoff, who is his favourite cricketer.
And another great pick.
And John Arnorisa, his favourite footballer. And I questioned this. I was like, John Arnorisa is your favourite... Of all the guys who have played football, John Arnorisa is your favourite footballer?
I mean, he's got to be somebody's favourite.
Yeah, I guess. He actually explained that he thought he was running out of characters on Twitter and he meant favourite Liverpool player is John. But even then, surely Gerrard or Fowler or Rush?
Yeah. Michael Owen.
Yeah? Well, I don't know. Owen's a bit of a dick, isn't he?
That's only because he flitted between like the Man United and Liverpool, which is a no-no.
He scored the winner at Old Trafford in that derby game, so he's always got a special place for me, just from that one moment there. That was a fantastic day.
But he has got the charisma of cardboard.
He has, indeed, he has. Dan does actually continue saying his top three footballers are Risa, Maldini and Roberto Carlos, all left-footed defenders like he used to be. Yeah, okay. I mean, Maldini I'm a big fan of, yeah, definitely. So, yes, John Arnorisa's mother doesn't even like John Arnorisa, says Matt Willis in the chat. This is odd, because we're now going to have people arguing in the chat about a Norwegian footballer who retired 15 years ago. It's like completely irrelevant to anything else.
But for chain wrestling, is that odd? Or is that just the norm?
Yeah, I suppose, mate. I suppose. Millwall Chris here saying he would like to go.
Wow, I would literally give you strict instructions that you were to go to.
Well, I'll just read it out and we'll go through quick. It's all right. Don't worry.
So, right.
He says, I'm going.
Let me get rid of that first. I'm going to find Millwall Chris.
He says, I'm going Bang Bang Podcast and me and you, Mags, which is nice.
Okay, I haven't got that one. Millwall Chris, he picked Brett, Sean, and Vince, he said.
That was at the end. Yeah, he's had a couple, mate. He's had a couple.
All right,
Yeah.
so I've got to find his other one. So he had
this
Rob,
came
Jen,
in-
and Freddie. He had Brett, Sean, and Vince. And now I've got to find his third one. It would be right at the fucking bottom, wouldn't it? Oh, it's not even there. Anyway, go on. I'm not putting this up because I'm sick of seeing that image flash before my eyes. It's horrific. We'll avoid
Scottish
it now.
Johnny.
No more going to the live Twitter for this one. You've ruined it, William, with your horrific, illegal image of Bungle.
Brilliant. Scottish Danny here. Actually, I've got William Kitchen's one himself here. Where is that one gone? Let me just have a quick. Okay, we'll go Scottish Danny first. He says here Lemmy because he's God. That's a great shout. Lemmy would be on mine, I think. Rick Mail because he's also God. Another shout for Rick Mail there. Look, you know, that's good. Chain Wrestling Hall of Lamer, the Zodiac. So the previous two choices can rip him apart with insults all night. That could be quite amusing, to be fair. That could be very amusing. Dan also sends in, Dan Griffin here also sends in, if he had to pick a top three overall, he would be going Rick Mail again. Another shout out for Rick Mail. Robin Williams and Stan Lee. Without the latter two's work, my childhood would have been shit. And Rick Mail is just a legend, Dan says. And that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a
great pick.
Yeah. Really good, really good. William Kitchen at the Appliance 180. He says he would take CM Punk, George Carlin, and Hugh Edwards, but only after they share a big bag of skunk.
I mean, Punk, I understand. George Carlin, definitely understand. Hugh Edwards, the news reporter, the Welsh news reporter. I mean, it's a shout, I suppose.
Yeah,
And the bag of skunk would make things interesting.
it would. It would be quite curious conversation, I imagine. Craig William at Craig Pro Wrestling Musings on Twitter. He
Great
has
guy.
a couple of options for us here. Wrestlers, he would love to sit down with Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, and he's got Page written here, so I'm assuming that's Hangman Page.
I would assume so, yeah.
Yep. And famous people, he says Russell Brand, Matt Haig, and Kristen Bell. Now, Russell Brand is the guy with the big hair comedian. He's not actually that. Yeah, I can't stand that guy.
Mr. Paul Tully, one of my podcast partners, he adores Russell Brand.
Really?
His comedy is not for me. I kind of don't get the irreverence, but I do like the way he's changed his life around. He was very much a a dickbag. I think he won the Shagger of the Year award about 3 or 4 times in a row. But now he does do a hell of a lot for making the world a better place, for environmental and social causes. So I've got to give him his props for that. But in terms of comedy, not my bag.
No. Matt Haig. I'm not sure who that is.
I have no idea, but Google.
Spelled Haig.
I mean, I'm aware. I've still got the Twitter feed open.
All right. Bloody hell. I'm trying to help.
So Matt Haig is an author. He
Okay.
wrote books.
I'll see Mags, yeah.
The Midnight Library, Reasons to Stay Alive, How to Stop Time. Yeah, I don't.
Okay, fair enough.
No,
yeah, I imagine that'd be quite interesting.
Sounds like an interesting guy, though.
Yeah. Craig also continues. Really, though, his choices would be his wife and his daughter, because why would you choose famous strangers over loved ones? Totally kills the game, but still. Yeah, it does kind of makes us all look, all the rest of us look like dickheads for not saying that, doesn't it? So thanks for that, Craig.
To be fair, though, Craig, the rule was 3, and you broke that. We've just saying 1 and 2, and you would know the stories of your wife and your daughter because you're kind of there. This is about maybe kind of finding out stuff that you didn't know. So thanks for playing along with the first 2 and disqualified for the 3rd one.
There we go.
No, but it's a great bit. I mean, we do look like assholes for not including our families.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but at the same time, I love my wife. I love my kids, but I eat with them pretty much every day. The chance to sit down with Jenna Coleman from Doctor Who, I'm not going to pass that up, am I?
Good. I mean, of all the Doctor Who characters, Jenna Coleman.
Yeah, I reckon she's gorgeous, mate.
I mean, that's fine, but how does that bring conversation and debate to the table?
I don't want to talk to her.
just want to look at her.
Good Cop, Bad Cop Wrestling Podcast at Good Bad Wrestle on Twitter sent us a DM here. He says his trio would be Matt Willis, CM Punk, and Cody Rhodes. I'd have a blast, but would love to see him squirm as I recount all the shit he has said about them on Good Cop, Bad Cop. That would be quite funny. Rob at UTT Rob on Twitter. He says he'd love to get Bischoff, Cornette, and Russo around the table just for the absolute fireworks. Oh, that would be superb, wouldn't it?
That's a great shout.
It would just be a fight. It would just turn into a massive scrap.
I don't even think it would, because I don't think any of them are really particularly fighters, and they're all really good at debating. I think it would end up being a really good debate.
Okay. And Bischoff obviously, does martial arts and that, doesn't he?
He says he does. Did you ever see him do any? He threatened to have a boxing fight with Vince McMahon one time. That never happened, so he might be full of shit.
Yeah, maybe. We're calling you out, Bischoff. Okay, well, Magsy's calling you out. Magsy says you're full of shit and you've never done any martial arts, okay? So, there we go. Rob continues, but for a lovely chat, Huddersfield Town legend Andy Booth, plus a couple of Celebrity Town fans, Sir Patrick Stewart and Jodie Whittaker. So obviously that's a Doctor Who, and Sir Patrick Stewart was Captain Picard, wasn't he, from Star Trek?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Great
That'd be quite interesting. Yeah, that'd be quite interesting. We have J.A. at 80s and 90s Wrestling on Twitter. He says Bobby Heenan, Finchy from The Office, as Finchy from The Office, and Jet from Gladiators. What a cracking night it would be. What are we talking, though? Jet from Gladiators then, or Jet from Gladiators now?
I don't think there's much of a difference.
Is there not?
From pictures that I've seen of her, not relatively recently, but a few years ago, she still is a stunner. So,
okay, you'd want to wear in the Jet from Gladiators gear, though, wouldn't you? So you'd have to go for dinner somewhere with quite a loose dress code.
I mean, if she rocks up in the Jet Gladiator gear, who turns her away? Whether it's a black tie affair or not, who turns her away?
You could just put a tie on with the Gladiator gear.
She'd just kick the shit out of him anyway, because she was properly hard.
Yeah, fair point. And she used to do that thing where she'd stand there and play guitar on her leg, wouldn't she? Do you remember? That was quite cool. Yeah.
Or you take Shadow with her, and he would just beat the living shit out of her who said she couldn't go in, and then...
Didn't he end up in loads of trouble with the police, didn't he, Shadow?
I believe so, yeah. Was he not a drug dealer or something like that?
Yeah, steroids and things, I think, wasn't it? I might be completely wrong. Hopefully, you know, if Shadow, if you're listening, let us know what you got in trouble for, mate. Okay, we're intrigued. You know, you know that'd be give your side of the story. Maybe you're completely innocent like Nails. Who knows? Stevo at Total Stevo on Twitter. He says here. Well, first of all, he says he was wondering if there was a non-wrestling topic this week. He literally had to search us up on Twitter to find out, which is weird because I put the same tweets out every week, so he would have been tagged. I don't know what's happened there, Steve. Oh, apologies, my friend. He says here he would immediately say Ricky Gervais and Steve Merchant, but that's kind of where it stops for him. Honestly, there's no one other than these two that I've had such an impact on who I am today as a personality, or who I genuinely love to talk to because of the shows they created and the radio show XFM they did for 3 years. If pushed for a third, maybe Stone Cold or The Rock, but honestly, every time I hear this sort of question asked, I answer with those two, and I then struggle to fill another, which is great. He's that passionate about it. I understand, you know, Ricky Gervais. He kind of splits opinions, doesn't he? I like him. I think he's funny. I love The Office. I love both versions, the UK and the US. But I know that some people can't stand the guy. So
I think he's one of the most talented people that the UK has ever produced. In terms of the content that he makes, outstanding, and also his thought processes. Whilst I don't always agree with the things that he says, I understand how he gets to the points that he's making. So yeah, I think he's a star.
Yeah. And Steve-O did eventually tweet in again saying, I've got a third.
About an hour later.
After saying he really struggles, etc., he finally messaged in and said, I've got a third, in capital letters. James Buckley, who played Jay from The In-Betweeners. He's a very humble guy. Every time I've heard him on a podcast, always really open and honest about celebrity lifestyle, what it's really like being an actor. And he's a huge Gervais Merchant fan as well. So that'd be quite cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, great picks. I mean, very different picks. I don't how Jay would fit in with the Office guys. Be interesting, but I like the way he kind of he talks about James being like so humble and that he was a huge fan as well. So it'd be almost like him and Steve-O fanboying of Ricky and Stephen Merchant. So.
And finally, from Twitter, Millwall Chris here, who you mentioned it earlier on, Magsy. He would like to sit down with Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, and Vince McMahon, so I could really find out who screwed who. And the correct answer is Bret screwed Bret. He's put here, and yes, that is the correct answer. You do business on the way out. Bret screwed Bret.
We did a whole show proving that it was Bret. So, yeah, it was definitely Bret. So Matt's done some confirmation. First of all, he accused me of lowering the tone because of the shadow thing, and then says this is what he was involved in: steroid abuse scandal that saw him lose his job. He was outed by the press after taking drugs in a London nightclub. So, yep, we pretty much got it. Also in the chat, Sharon has said Jared Leto. Shock! I'm surprised she didn't just say him 3 times. Just him turning up.
Jared Leto the singer, Jared Leto the actor,
then Jason Momoa and Adam Cole. Great picks.
Okay, no Roman Reigns on there. Interesting. Or Hangman Page.
And Matt has said he's looked up the image that we were avoiding and said, my eyes. And Dana confirms it's a bad one. If Dan thinks something is bad, it tends to be horrific. Well, Matt says there's more shadow news on the way, so we'll keep you informed with that.
We'll keep you updated with the shadow news, breaking shadow news from 1995 or whatever. Magsy, what about yourself? What would you be thinking?
Yeah, I think in terms of wrestling, there's been a couple that have really nailed it. The Bret, Shawn, and Vince one, that'd be fascinating to be a fly on the wall. That the Cornette, Bischoff, and Russo one. Just to hear the arguments and the different viewpoints of what went down in that era of wrestling, that would be a hell of a lot of fun. In terms of like other celebrities, how do you go wrong with Rick Mail? If I was to change it up, I'd maybe switch to Ed Edmondson, his kind of partner, because with Rick, maybe you would get a more glamorized version of the stories, and with Aid being like side by side with him for the best part of 30 years, maybe you would get more chance of getting the truth.
Okay.
Not saying that Rick Mel would lie, but it would just be more, I think, glamorized and more. It would sound more kind of entertaining, I suppose. Where with Aid, he feels like he's more matter of fact. So
yeah, that makes sense, mate. Yeah.
Next, I would have a comedian called Miles Jupp. He's usually on game shows like Have I Got No News for You, things like that. But he's just one of the most deadpan, kind of sarcastic comedians. He just, every time he's on a show, he just absolutely cracks me up. So
he was in that kids program as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, was it Ballamore?
That's it. He was the guy in the pink sweater who lived at the castle.
Yeah, he's just the kind of comedy that really entertains me. That witty, kind of sarcastic, off the cuff style comedy. So, and I think you need at a dinner party some kind of light-hearted entertainment. And then the next one, and nobody's mentioned this at all. I think I'd invite the Queen.
Okay.
And the reason is because I just find it fascinating to hear her lifestyle. I mean, she is obviously the head of the royal family, and I would just love to know how they kind of work as a society, almost kind of we as the common people often living hand to mouth and paycheck to paycheck, and she's got all this kind of servants and the very finest things in life. I'd just love to hear if there's any kind of common ground between us, the lowly scum of Britain, and the hoi polloi. Plus,
but you're a lord.
I had to buy my own lordship. It's not like it was handed to me. And plus, I think she's had a rough time of it over the last few years, and it'd be cool just to like give her nice to think about.
You had it rough, Liz. I'll tell you what, let's pop down spoons, have a couple of jars, and see how you get on, eh?
Pant and mild. Yeah, that's who I'd go with, yeah.
Okay. Fair enough, mate. Fair enough.
Before we get to yours, some shadow news. He was jailed for 6 years in 2021 for the kidnapping, beating, and false imprisonment of Aaron Alley, who I have no clue who he is. So let's.
No, I don't know who Aaron Alley is.
Let's have a look who Aaron Alley is.
Oh, Shadow, you naughty little gladiator, you! What a scamp!
Oh, he's just a commoner. He actually sent.
He's a commoner. Did you just say?
Yeah, like a normal bloke. Sorry, apologies, Aaron.
He's a commoner.
Apparently, Shadow sent the video of him being beat up and begging for mercy to his wife, and he battered him with a wooden furniture leg.
Wow. Sounds like a bit of a piece of shit then.
Yeah, and he was 60 years old at the time when he did it.
Who, Shadow?
Shadow, yeah.
Why? Okay.
And it was all to extort £1,000 out of his wife.
Just for £1,000?
How low can you stoop, I suppose?
Oh dear me! What a state Shadow must be in. Mm-hmm. Never mind. If any more Shadow news pops up in the coming weeks, don't worry. Here on Chain Wrestling, we will keep you fully informed.
And Benny, if you're around, do us a Shadow news jingle. That'd be cool. Yeah,
brilliant. For me, I mean, the obvious one for me would be Lemmy from Motorhead. I'd love to sit down and just chat with that guy. You know, just the story. You read his book for a start, and there's so many great stories in there. To actually just sit down and chat with a guy, that would be absolutely fantastic. Blackie Lawless from Wasp is another one, because you don't really hear the guy speak ever. He's done, especially nowadays. Back in the 80s, he did more interviews, of course, but he did a podcast with a prominent heavy metal rock DJ in America in the last few months, and it was a massive deal to fans of Wasp such as myself, because you don't hear the guy speak hardly ever. He hardly ever does interviews or so on. So that would be quite interesting from that standpoint. Jenna Coleman, obviously, I've mentioned, just to try and woo
The
her.
eye candy.
Yeah. Probably end up with some
To
kind of a string.
try. How old are you to try and woo her?
Well, what would you like me to say? What, Jenna Coleman, so I can try and slip her one? Was that better? What would you want me to say?
So you could bungle her after some Tia Maria.
I could bungle her after a Tia Maria. Oh dear, Miss Coleman, I'm so sorry. You could also be quite clever and sneaky with this sort of stuff as well, though, couldn't you? Because you could invite something like Jack the Ripper, because then you'd know who it was.
I mean, and also you could find out why he did it.
Zodiac as well. Zodiac, not the wrestler, the Zodiac killer.
I mean, people like Peter Sutcliffe, Harold Chipman, delve into that mind of why these people did some of the most horrific things known to man.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking more from the standpoint of if you invited Jack the Ripper, he would.
You
turn
could get
up
all the glory.
and you'd know, you'd know who he was then.
Self-serving.
How is that self-serving? It's not like I'm going to keep
I've caught him. I've caught him. He's here. This is it. I've got him.
I've caught him 140 years later by inviting him to a dinner party, and that's going to work. Me and Jenna Coleman are exposed. Jack the Ripper. Oh, dear me. Magsy, before we get on to a bit of wrestling, shall we have a look in the chat and see if there's anything we need to catch up on before we move on?
Yes, sir. Sharon confirms she almost nearly picked Jared Leto 3 times. There we go. More Shadow news. Shadow was caught in possession of an elderly man's bus pass, which he tried to use, despite being only 43 at the time, and he was arrested for possession of stolen property.
Amazing.
We've covered him being locked up for 6 years. Dan, with a great story about the Queen, is that she's done advanced driving course and used to fuck with the guards by going out for drives and power sliding the car as close to the guards as humanly possible. And can you imagine if she hit a guard? I mean, she wouldn't get done for it, surely.
No. That's like royal banter, isn't it? That's Queenie Bants, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Matt said, as I said, you won't get conversation from Shadow, you'll just get a restraining order. And then Dan has said, we are preparing for the Morty and Fitch presents the Serial Killer or Vision, which is a good lead into go and checking out Morty and Fitch's podcast, because we were part of Biscuit or Vision, and that was so much fun. Heated. I got called a knob multiple times because of my love of a pink wafer. But it was a fun podcast.
I don't mind a pink wafer, mate.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of negates my pick of a pink wafer. But there we go.
All right then. Shall we talk a little wrestling then, Mags?
I am off it with these intros, but yes, we shall.
Let's get ready to rumble!
So then, winning the poll this week was, well, it was always going to be a Bret Hart match because both options were Bret Hart matches. But on this occasion, we are going to Survivor Series 1995, and we're watching Bret Hart versus Kevin Nash in a no DQ match for the WWF World Championship.
Yes.
Maxie, what did you think?
Yeah, initial thoughts were it was incredibly slow paced. Which, from a big guy like Diesel, if you didn't know him as a wrestler, you kind of expect, but knowing how he wrestled, it was still quite weird to see him fight such a slow pace. But for me, it kind of shows the diversity of Bret Hart, that he can work so many different styles. In terms of the match, I thought it was really, really, really good. Very old school, very kind of its time in terms of action, but I can't say I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the same. To me, it was quite a, like you said, old school, but quite a simple story in a way. The interviews beforehand and some of the commentary discussing the match before it started was very much saying that Diesel's the big guy, lots of power, and Diesel himself even said, I don't get paid by the hour, so he wants to go in, smash Bret Hart up and leave. Bret Hart is saying that he's smaller, he's potentially a bit quicker, and he can out wrestle. He might not be able to match Diesel for power, but he can out wrestle Diesel. And if we go 20 minutes plus, it's got to favor Bret because of the stamina side of things and so on. So it's as simple as that is. To me, that's very, totally. It's very, very believable as well. Very, based in reality, I guess, because that is what would happen.
Yeah, and this is coming with Diesel being almost a year as champion, which I think was actually the longest reign of anybody in the 90s, which is absolutely phenomenal. I think if he'd have returned, it would have only been a week away from being a full year. The stakes in this were really hard. Diesel was obviously one of Vince's boys. He absolutely adored him, but it was a period of wrestling where they were not drawing well, and Diesel has gone down in history as one of the lowest drawing WWF champions. But this was the period where Bret Hart was at his peak, I think, as a WWF superstar. This would have, I think, he was his third reign when he won this match. So he was really kind of flourishing, I suppose, as the guy at the top of the tree.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with regards to it being a sort of downtime in the business, and Diesel having this tag of being the lowest drawing champion and so on, I think that can be a little bit harsh, because it's not just, obviously, if you've got a top guy who everyone wants to see, you're going to draw more money. Of course you are. But the business as a whole, it wasn't just WWF with Diesel on top that was suffering. The business as a whole was suffering. WCW was in the toilet. The indies were just falling apart. There wasn't any big successful independent companies in 1995.
Yeah,
it was the whole business was an absolute state. It was on the sort of the downturn from that initial 80s peak, I think.
Yeah, and we've always said that wrestling is very cyclical. And this was, unfortunately for Diesel, it was a period of downtime. And to put it in kind of a little bit of context, Shawn Michaels, who is widely regarded as one of the best to ever do it in the ring, a lot of his runs as champion were also not big draws financially. So if somebody of his caliber is down there with the lowest drawing champions, I think it shows it's not always the fault of the champion that the company is not pulling in the big bucks. It's a team effort.
But it does kind of, you hear a lot, don't you, about the person who is in theory the guy, that they feel that pressure literally on their shoulders. You hear Bret Hart himself has said in his first title reign, he felt that pressure of being the top guy and the numbers going down. Savage apparently felt that pressure. Michaels, says that his addiction issues were contributed to because of the pressure he felt being the guy. And even though it was a case of, it's not just down to you, he felt, again, in his book, he states quite openly, he felt the pressure of being the top guy, and he felt he was letting everyone else down by not drawing money into the company and so on. So it does seem to be a theme that runs along, doesn't it? Yeah,
it must be a massive weight on your shoulders when you first hear that you're going to be the champion, when you first win the title. There's got to be that jubilation, that validation that you are being you're being honoured for your work in the business. But when that kind of subsides and you've got the pressure of being the face of the company, of being the wrestler that does the promos, the wrestler who the pay-per-views are based around, I can see that being kind of make or break for a lot of people. Some people will thrive under that pressure. Guys like The Rock, guys like Austin really kind of stepped it up. But on the other side, if you have a personality like Shawn Michaels, where it was very addictive to stuff, that can drive you to the vices. It can make you kind of lean on those demons. So I understand that massive pressure of wanting to be somebody who everybody looks up to as a leader of the company, and that kind of falling away, and you essentially carrying the can for the company not doing well.
Yeah, definitely. And I wonder if these sort of periods as well are what's made the WWE very much in its current mold. Because if you look at the sort of, I suppose, the ups and downs of the business from the 80s onwards, you had Hogan, who was the guy, wasn't he? He was the draw. And then when Hogan kind of steps away, retires, moves on to WCW, whatever, the bubble of Hulkamania, so to speak, has been burst. That one guy means that the numbers drop. Mm-hmm. You then had the Attitude Era coming along. Now, of course, you've got guys like Randy Savage and all the other players involved, but they looked at Hogan as the figurehead of that era. Everything was around Hogan. The Attitude Era came along. And again, you had other players involved, The Undertaker, The Rock, and so on, all draws in their own right. But Austin was very much the figurehead, especially for the first couple of years, 98 and so on, when the numbers were going up and up and up. Same with Goldberg and WCW and so on. He was very much the figurehead of that time. Now, they're not in a position where they have that kind of one or two people that if they walk away, the business will drop. It's literally the brand now. So I wonder if this time is very much reflective of why they are as they are now, so to speak.
Yeah, I think you make an absolute lot of sense. And I remember, I don't think it was a particular interview with anyone involved in the WWE, but it was certainly that speculation that when The Rock started to become Hollywood and started to be demanded everywhere, and Vince felt he was losing one of his biggest stars, that was the kind of maybe the straw that brought the camel's back. And you mentioned it with Hogan. That happened. Hogan became bigger than the WWE, the WWF at the time, and then went on to Passage New, and the company kind of felt the backlash from that. The guys who they tried to put in his place, like the Ultimate Warrior, Savage, kind of didn't live up to that Hogan mold. They got the upturn with the Attitude Era, and then that started to tail off. Got it back with Cena. Cena went Hollywood. That started to tail off. And I think that kind of solidified Vince's mindset that no wrestler should be bigger than the company. Because if you're having to rely on one big star to be for the company's profits, if that star gets injured or leaves, it's detrimental to the company. So for Vince and for the WWF, the stars need to be interchangeable now. They need to. It doesn't matter who the champion is. It's the company that is the banner holder, I suppose. Yeah, spot on, mate. Spot on. And Dan has made a great comment in the chat. Mag saying Sam makes a lot of sense. Welcome to the Twilight Zone. a stopped watch is right twice a day.
All right, thank you, everyone. Yeah, let's move on. Diesel here comes like, it's another great entrance theme, isn't it? It fits the character so well.
Yeah,
Diesel, when he comes out here, he just looks so cool. The very 90s ring gear, the hair, the beard, and just the way he sort of saunters down to the ring, dragging the belt alongside him, just looks cool.
It's the swagger. I mean, we talked about him with Scott Hall. These two may be the coolest motherfuckers that's ever wrestled. Just the absolute swagger. It's almost like he didn't even give a shit about the wrestling business. I mean, obviously he did because he made a hell of a lot of money. But it was just that nonchalant, I'm cool, you're not swagger. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And he still carries it now. He's still one of the coolest guys.
On, Max, to be fair. I think you're spot on when you say it's like he didn't give a shit about the wrestling business. I think with Kevin Nash, you're not far off. He gave a shit about the money. Yeah. But in the wrestling business itself, I don't think he was that bothered.
It was a means to an end.
Yeah. As you mentioned earlier, the match starts incredibly slow with Diesel on the offensive.
Before we even get to that, though, before we even get to the actual action, for me, a very interesting start to the match where Diesel takes off a turnbuckle.
Oh yeah, and Bret copies, doesn't he?
And kind of goads Bret to do it, and Diesel very easily undone and thrown. Bret struggles to undo a turnbuckle, but for me, that I felt it was different. I mean, you do usually get turnbuckle spots, don't get me wrong, but it's normally in the middle of a match to kind of gain an advantage. This was like setting the bar straight away. I thought that was a really cool way of starting the match.
Yeah, quite unique. Yeah, you're right. But as we said, like it's Diesel. Then is when Diesel's on the offense, he is very slow, methodical, and so on. Bret kind of tries to quicken the pace a few times, but to me, watching this back, I was really impressed with how Bret was just sort of bumping around for Diesel as well. I mean, I look back at WrestleMania 11 and I see how Shawn Michaels used to throw himself around for Diesel and just bump all over the place. It's almost like Bret has kind of got that similar mindset himself here, and he makes Diesel's offense look fantastic.
Now, I would say that Bret's is better for me because it's more believable. I think Shawn had a tendency sometimes to over-egg the pudding when it came to selling. I mean, obviously we've spoke about the Hogan match, but even when he's facing these bigger guys, he does oversell. Bret is so good at riding that line of making it look believable. So I would give prop to Bret's more than I would for Shawn on that case anyway.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, makes a lot of sense, mate. Fair enough. We get the standard Bret Hart working on the leg because obviously he's building towards the sharpshooter. But in this instance, it makes even more sense because you're facing a guy who's bigger than you. Take him out of the knees, you know. And as the cliche always is, everyone's the same size when they're down on the mat, Mags, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly, and this is where we get another really unique spot with the XLR cable, the microphone cable, where essentially Bret hamstrings Diesel's leg to the corner post with the cable. Very, very unique, very, very intelligent. They made it feel like a well done movie. I mean, watching it doesn't make a lick of sense because it's a cable. He tucks it in and there's a very loose knot. But they make this really work. And Jim on commentary talking about how the kind of snap of the cable really jerks Diesel's leg. They really kind of build it up as if this is very, very clever by Bret Hart. And in reality, it was something that I've never seen before, being kind of like tied at the ankle, and they really made it work and got quite a few kind of good little spots out of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we get Bret bringing the chair in as well, don't we? Whilst Diesel's kind of tangled up, tied up, or however you want to word it. Diesel frantically sort of fights Bret away whilst he's kind of, tied up with this cable. Eventually, Bret does get the better of him. And he just beats the piss out of him with his chair, doesn't he? He really goes to town on him with this chair. It's quite vicious.
And this is, I think this just shows how versatile Bret Hart was. I mean, technical wrestler, absolutely amazing. Yeah. He could fight big men, monster men, high flyers, and get a classic out of him. But this match, he was down and dirty. He literally bit Diesel at one point to avoid the powerbomb.
Yeah.
He showed that this title meant everything to him. That he would fight tooth and nail for this title. And like you said, he beats the living piss out of Diesel with the chair because you've got the big guy down. Keep him down. It absolutely makes all the sense in the world, and it's just a good point to how intelligent of a wrestler that Bret Hart actually was.
Yeah, we get a little throwback as well from Diesel to his Vinny Vegas days, where he goes for his old Snake Eyes finisher on the exposed turnbuckle. Bret manages to counter this though and sends Diesel into the buckle himself. Bret then just works on Diesel some more. He hits a sort of quite a unique looking middle rope bulldog. He hits some staples, I suppose, from the Bret Hart repertoire, I guess, like the side rush and leg sweep and those brilliant punches with that snap that Bret Hart has and so on. And eventually Diesel gets knocked outside and Bret does this crazy over-the-top rope kind of dive thing. That
almost like a slingshot.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, okay, where's that come from?
Yeah, it was... I mean, for Bret Hart in the mid-90s, that was incredibly unique.
Yeah.
You just don't see him doing stuff like that. Yeah, it was a really cool spot.
I mean, with regards as well to sort of a little deviation away, I suppose, with regards to the side Russian leg sweep move, I love that move. It's great, especially when Bret does it, because everything Bret does, I think, has this air of believability to it.
Yeah.
But it's called a side Russian leg sweep. Is there any other form of Russian leg sweep?
A back one?
Is there?
Yeah,
that's
I don't
the thing.
think so.
So surely it would just be called a Russian leg sweep. Why do we have to stipulate side Russian leg sweep? There's no other type.
I didn't name the move, sir,
Well,
unfortunately.
I know you didn't. I'm just asking a question. We're doing a live podcast, Magsy. It's just a conversation. We're supposed to be going back and forth, you know?
I mean, why do moves get called the names that they are? I mean, yeah, I understand it. I mean, look it up. There may be a front Russian leg sweep. I'm gonna actually look for that now.
Okay, you do that, Magsy.
Russian leg sweep.
It's just how my mind works, you know?
No, there's not. It's just there's a 3/4 face lock Russian leg sweep.
Okay.
And yeah, who invented it? It was apparently Brad Armstrong and Bret Hart who popularized the Russian.
Yeah, Brad Armstrong. Used it a lot in WCW.
Yep. According to people on Reddit, there is a few different variations, but they all kind of look at the same, attacking from the side. There's one called the White Russian leg sweep, where you use a kendo stick to take your opponent down.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know why my mind works in these funny little ways, but I sort of see that side Russian leg sweep. So why is it called the side then? Is there another, and again, it's been around for years and it's always been referred to as a side Russian leg sweep pretty much everywhere, you know?
Yeah, and Matt kind of confirms it's actually just called the Russian leg sweep, and it was actually dubbed a sad one by WWE.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not so sure about that because I can remember it getting called a side Russian leg sweep way back when in the old Jim Crockett promotion days. You know, whether it's on an old Clash of Champions event and so on, you know, before Bret really broke out as a single star and used it himself, I suppose. It just seems to always, to me in my mind anyway, it seems to always been called that. But anyway, we digress, as we often do. We get the Bret Hart limp then, Magsy, don't we, after he's dived over the top. The standard Bret Hart limp, he hobbles around for a little bit, which he often does. And
then we get what at the time was a monumental spot, something that we see now weekly. But this was shocking for 1995 when Diesel essentially pushes Bret off the apron and he flies through the Spanish announce table. That was massive at the time, something that never really happened in WWF, and the crowd are blown away by it.
Yeah. Oh, the crowd's reaction are fantastic because they almost want to sort of scream and shout and react, but at the same time you can almost hear them sort of all having a big intake of breath. Yeah, like that. Yeah, spot on. It's like it's a real mixed kind of. Either way, it's they're in awe of what they've just seen, but it's almost like they're stunned and so on as well. And the table he goes through, he hits it at a funny angle, and it's still got all the monitors and so on as well. It did not look like a comfy table spot to me, Max.
Yeah, it's kind of reminiscent of one of. It's not like a standard table that we get now for the announcers, where you can tell that it's MDF and it's held together with cable ties, so it crashes pretty easily. This was a standard, almost like pasting table that they drag from under the ring. The monitors are the old-fashioned kind of CRT monitors that look absolutely brutal. It's covered by a little bit of a curtain, and Bret takes it hip first. He doesn't go through it flat back. He doesn't go through it with his shoulder. It's essentially hip first, and how he perfectly pinpoints his landing position to avoid the monitors, because if he would have landed on one of those monitors hip first, that's a career-ending injury right there. But yeah, it just looks a brutal spot. Yeah,
exactly. It's not a comfortable landing, and there's so much stuff on the table that sort of just tips towards him as well. So he kind of has
there's water bottles, the monitors fall all over him.
He gets all piled on him. Yeah. Oh dear. I mean, from there, Diesel thinks, he smells blood. I guess Diesel's thinking, I've got this one now. Bret's limp. Bret's like just, he can barely stand up and so on. Diesel tries to hit his jackknife powerbomb, but Bret just falls to the floor because he can't stand up. Diesel tries again to hit the jackknife powerbomb, and Bret rolls him up in a small package. And what I find really interesting for that, I mean, that's effectively the finish. He rolls him up out the blue in this small package, 1, 2, 3. Diesel kicks out at about 3.25 or whatever. What I find really interesting was the crowd popped before the ref had even counted 1. The crowd popped for the small package.
Mm-hmm.
They popped for the roll up, so they must be thinking, this is it, even before the referee started counting.
Yeah, and I think it speaks of Bret's desperation to win a title. I mean, he didn't use his finisher, didn't get to end the match with the sharpshooter. This was desperation tactics, and it's the collapsing, brilliant spot, something that we've revisited time and time again, notably in the Okada and Omega feud, where it just worked perfectly. This was superb, how Bret was just beat down so much that he couldn't even take the move, he couldn't stand up, but it was all a wily ploy to trick Diesel into the small package. Great finish, unexpected for me, even knowing the kind of result, because you tend to expect finishing moves. With this, you didn't get that. You got a desperation small package and a win, and then it leads to Diesel being pissed off. Again, something that you do get heel attacking the faces, but you normally the champion gets a chance to soak in the glory, the chance to celebrate. Not in this, he gets absolutely it gets the piss beat out of him for it.
Yeah,
it's really good. Yeah, it's a really good spot.
Yeah, with regards to the sort of not seeing a finisher and the roll up for the win and so on, I don't think we see enough of that. I think we've been. I'm a big believer in that. This is supposed to be a sporting contest, and yes, okay, we want to see them entertain us with their incredible athletic abilities and so on. But you strip it back to the basics. It's supposed to be a sporting contest we are watching. We suspend our disbelief to get indulged and believe what we're seeing. There should be more pin attempts in wrestling.
Yeah.
You go back to Savage versus Steamboat, WrestleMania 3. You watch that. They try and pin each other again and again and again after every move because they're trying to win the match, not put on this choreographed dance routine. They're trying to win the match. So not seeing, I've got to finish the match with my triple somersault splash, or I've got to finish the match with this plancha I do, or whatever. No, to me, titles and matches should be secured more often with non-finishing moves, to me. Because again, it adds to the believability factor of what we're watching. If I've explained that properly,
No, you absolutely right. And you hit the nail on the head. It's now very choreographed, and it's technically astounding to watch. That's not me kind of slating the product. It changes with the times. Absolutely. The wrestlers nowadays are the most technically gifted that we've ever seen. Things that wrestlers can do now as standard moves blows away a lot of the stuff that we grew up on with the 80s and 90s. But it is choreographed. You can see where moves look flashy and have very little impact. You can see how finishes of matches start happening 2 to 3 minutes before you get to the end, because there's a set routine of moves to end a match. There is not enough of this where it's desperation, where it's something as simple as a small package winning a match. I think it's a brave call, but ultimately I think it was a very, very interesting one.
Yeah, sure. And again, I suppose Diesel comes out of it looking very strong, doesn't he? He's not damaged by the loss, because it looks like Bret just managed to sneak one. It looks like Bret's almost fluked the 3 count in this particular instance, and then Diesel beats the shit out of him anyway.
And the refs, which makes Diesel look super, super strong, and also kind of solidifies that heel turn that it was obviously was happening after this. Bret walks out as the champion, but doesn't look like a champion, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, ultimately, I quite enjoyed this, Magsy. Out of 10, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to judge it fairly in 22 hours because it is so old school in the way that the match happens. There's a lot of unique stuff, a lot of really interesting things that you perhaps don't see enough of. The cable spot I think is outstanding. The table spot for its time was phenomenal. As of now, it's par for the course. The finish I thought was very, very intelligent. The pace is a little bit slow now for me in terms of the kind of wrestling I enjoy to watch now. But judging it in kind of in isolation as the match, it was very, very good. Very, very good. I think it's an easy 7.5.
Okay. I'm a bit lower, to be honest. I'm a bit lower. I really enjoyed what they did, and there were moments that I thought were. Oh, it's at the cable spot was fantastic. You know, the table spot again is fantastic. The pace thing for me was a bit too slow.
Okay, fair.
I appreciate the story they're trying to tell with Diesel being the big, strong, powerful guy, Bret being smaller and quicker. But there were times when it went so slow, it was always going backwards. And that kind of took away for me a little bit. But at the same time, I still really enjoyed the story they were trying to tell. I love the old school kind of stylings to it, because that's very much the type of wrestling I enjoy. But it went too slow too often for me in between these great moments I like. So I'm probably going to go 6.5, Magsy. So, you know, one lower than you, I guess.
I mean, that makes sense. For me, I think the fact that Bret was able to mix up his styles and show the desperation kind of tips it over the edge for me. But I understand your kind of rhetoric that it's a match certainly of its time. It's definitely a match of the mid 90s.
Yeah, definitely. And so then, where are we going next? Where would you like to link to for next week's show, Magsy? Okay,
so this was Kevin Nash Diesel's one and only run with the WF title. It wouldn't be long before he kind of up sticks, moves on, where he would have a way more success in terms of titles, but also kind of started to ruin wrestling a little bit with his wacky booking. But I do want to kind of stick on this Kevin Nash train. So the link is Kevin Nash. The link is debut, well, not debut, but first title runs. So I want to go to Starrcade 1998, December 27th, where Kevin Nash faced the undefeated Goldberg for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, eventually winning that title, then which leads on to another infamous moment in wrestling, which I assume we can talk about at the same time. But yeah, essentially I want to go to Starrcade, where Kevin Nash becomes the person that beats Goldberg's streak.
Wow, this is like Dan Griffin said earlier on in the chat, this is a little bit Twilight Zone, isn't it? You're putting forward WCW matches, and I want that to win. I'm voting for you this week, Mags. I'm voting for you. That's surreal, that is. Why? Yeah, great show. Starrcade 98, Kevin Nash versus Goldberg. Brilliant stuff. Little cameo from Scott Hall as well. Lots of stuff going on behind the scenes, which we can discuss as well. You know, why did they end Goldberg's streak and all this sort of stuff. So, yeah, really interesting shape, mate. I would love to discuss that next week. I really would.
So don't put a pick up then.
I've got it, mate. I was going to say, but the nature of the beast is I've got to put something else up. Now, mine is very much a case of something I've watched when I was very young. Don't think I've watched it back since, but I did have the VHS tape, so I probably did watch it more than once back in those days. And it gets mentioned a lot in the CWF and our little circles and so on. My link is going to be the winner of this match defended the championship against the British Bulldog at the next pay-per-view or next event, which was the In Your House event. So my link is the Bulldog is the link, And I want to just simply use the Bulldog to jump back in time a few years and have a little look at the Battle Royal at the Albert Hall.
Where Bulldog won. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember many people that were in that match other than the Bulldog himself. And I think that it could be quite interesting going back to a bit of a weird time running a show like that in the UK. Hogan wasn't around, pushing the Bulldog because he was supposedly the hometown hero and all this sort of stuff. And I'd just like to, I see it as almost like a little time capsule, a battle royal with whatever it was, 20 people in the ring. We can have a good discussion and a good look at the different characters that were involved. And it gives us plenty of options to go on to the following week, doesn't it? So,
it does.
Yeah, that's my choice there, Mags.
I'd say a great pick, but it's not as good as the one I picked, so...
No, it's not. It's genuinely not.
We'll see. But the CWF have got you on lock. You tend to be winning pretty much every week now, so we're probably watching the British Bulldog win in the hallowed halls of the Royal Albert Hall.
I hope we're going to Starrcade, mate. I want to see Goldberg versus Nash. I really do. I remember 2 Kevin Nash matches in the space of 7 days might be a bit much for us, but at the same time, it's WCW. Let's do it.
This and then the one hopefully that we'll touch on are 2 of the most infamous Kevin Nash matches, though, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. So those are your choices for next week. The poll will be up Wednesday, Thursday-ish sort of time when the audio version is with you later in the week. Your options are Kevin Nash versus Goldberg from Starrcade 1998 for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, or the Battle Royal at the Albert Hall from 1991, I believe that was. Late 91, was it, Maxie?
I think so, yeah.
Those are your options. The poll will be on Twitter, as always, as it always is. Make sure you chuck us a vote, retweet, etc., etc. Let us know why you're choosing in certain directions as well. I always find that quite interesting, why people have voted for certain options and so on. So, yeah, there we go. Maxie, I suppose that concludes this week's show, bud.
It certainly does. And before we give the kind of socials and the go home, I want to show a bit of love to one of the members of the CWF who's unfortunately not been able to be here today. Scottish Danny, Colin McAlder, the Canning Town Stabber. He's having some major issues in his personal life, and I just want to make sure he knows that we love him and we absolutely are here for him through this horrible time in his life. And if he needs anything, definitely. Don't hesitate to reach out, sir. You are massively important to us, not only as a listener, but as a friend. We really do appreciate you. So much love there to Scottish Danny. But yeah, that's it from us. Follow me down here on the Twitter at PodfatherMags. Follow me on TikTok at MagsAllPods. In terms of content all over Radio Techers, I would massively appreciate it if you go back and check out some of the live streams that we did for WrestleMania. I fully don't expect you to sit through all 13 hours of it, but there is a lot of highlights to skip back there through. The conversation takes some very, very weird turns, so it'd be cool if you went and checked that out. But you also will find me on the football watch-alongs with MMA on 5 rounds. We're starting to kind of push for F1 watch-alongs as well, which has been a lot of fun. And then in other content, I'm on Chair Shot. Yeah, and I don't even know why my brain went empty then. But I'm on Chair Shot with a Changing Attitude, Badlands, and also I pop up on Visionaries Global Media every now and again. So yeah, you can find me wherever you source your podcasts. Wow, I had a massive brain fart then.
Yeah, I think you need your bed, mate, don't you?
Oh, I'm beyond sleep now. I'm into the realms of zombie.
Fantastic. I just want to reiterate what you said as well, mate, about Scottish Danny. You know, Magsy said it perfectly, so I don't want to go on too much, but Danny, we love you. You know where we are if you need us, but okay. You can find me on Twitter at SJP Words, and you can find a little group on Facebook, SJP All the Shows and Info, and both of those there are where you can get links to all the stuff I'm involved in, whether it's chain wrestling here with Magsy, or we have Nitro Nights that I do with the aforementioned Scottish Danny. Loving talking to Danny every week about crazy WCW nonsense. The Waiting Room coming back very, very soon. Me and Benny Mac are recording episodes all the time, getting loads and loads done.
Can't wait for that to come back.
It's not going to be long, Magsy. It's not going to be long. We want a few in the bank before we release, but it shouldn't be too much longer before we start chucking them out there. And we also have the Doctor Who pod that I do with our good friend Dan Griffin. Going to the end of our first season there. Some great stories to look into. Tomorrow's episode is quite interesting because what we watched, Dan hated. So that's going to be quite an interesting listen for everyone there. But most importantly, you can find this show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and that TikTok thingamy at @chain_wrestling. So chuck us a follow on all of those social medias, or if you've got 1, 2, 3, or 4, follow us everywhere. I promise you, we are incredibly entertaining and funny, and it is worth it. I may be lying.
I mean, I'm entertaining and funny. Si also appears.
Yes, I do. I pop up every now and again. So there we go. Magsy, it's been an absolute joy once again. You need to go get to bed. I need to get to bed. I got work in the morning, and WrestleMania weekend is catching up with me. So I'm off now to go and, DM Jenna Coleman and see what she actually would like for dinner, and if she will join me sometime during the week. Magsy, I'll speak to you this week, my friend.
And I'm off to download that image from William Kitchen and save it on my phone. See you later, guys.